increases likelihood of conversion. Then start the process at the same time. Do outreaches in waves, start with the 20 funds you put on your preference list. But if one drops out and rejects, you just loop in the next one. And so you have a continuous 15 to 20 funds that you're always talking to, and never let the funnel dry out. Then on driving the process forward, you should really try to drive it also on the communication side, meaning answer fast to emails. So block time to answer emails the same day. Always try to answer it within latest 24 hours, but the faster the better. And do follow-ups and push the process forward, ask about next steps. I'm going to have an example in a second about it. And also, if you have a call with funds and then you don't hear from them, follow up with it. If you didn't hear from them for 2 days or 3 days, and you didn't discuss otherwise in the call, send an email, ask if they're interested to dig deeper. This increases sort of like your speed of getting an answer for them. And it will allow you to, if they reject, focus on another fund or loop another fund into the process. But it will push the process forward. And that's, I think, a great follow-up example here. It's an email I actually received from a founder of a B2B marketplace. And it directly came after the meeting of like, hey, Peter, great to chat with you. They personalized it. So we talked about one thing around B2B marketplaces. He referenced to it. And then he shares more information. Like, here's our deck. Here's our video and product demo. There's the Q&A we put together. Here's a KPI dashboard. We're happy to do these next steps with you. Let me know if you need info. Please get back. And I think that really gives me like, wow, they're very well prepared. They know their stuff. And I can do my work now quickly in the next days and follow up with you, set the next meeting. And the next meeting will be better because the investor had time to go through your data, and you will have more informed conversation and more detailed conversation then. This is a key point for me. Don't get blended. Everyone says they love it initially. It's the investor's job to tell you how much they love your business, even if they don't. Why? Think about your first meeting. There's a guy, and he says, like, great, I love what you're building. I really think this is an interesting space. I believe in the market. We should continue to chat. And there's the other investor sitting there saying, maybe this is interesting. Who are you more inclined to move forward with and excited to work with? It's probably the first guy. But actually, the likelihood of conversion is the same for them. And so every VC will try to give enthusiasm and excitement for you, either before the fundraising process or after or during the process. And so initially, everyone says they love it, but reality is most of them, or almost all of them, will say no. But you need to optimize for the 1, 2, 3, or more term sheets you get, but the first one is the most important one. And why is this important to have in mind? Because sometimes there's the conversation with founders that I have is, hey, but we only need to talk to 5 funds because they all love it so much and they're so convinced about this. They're going to do the round. And yes, that's the investor's job. They show you love. They tell you how much they love. 5 will probably decline. And then you lost probably 2 weeks in talking to them. You lost process momentum, and you need to restart your process. And as we learned, momentum is key, and you really don't want to, lose this process momentum if you need to restart a process with new reach out and these kind of things. So what are some do's and don'ts? Be ambitious, but don't overpromise. Don't frame negative, always positive. And even if you're not, always show full confidence. A fundraising process, when you talk to 20, 30 investors, where you get lots of no's, can be a pretty tough and bumpy emotional ride. But it's always important to show full confidence and make investors feel that things are going really well, that the process is moving. And investors very quickly sense if a process is losing momentum. So think smartly of what you say to them. If you say like, yeah, we're getting term sheets until end of the week, and end of the week you don't get term sheets, and you talk about it with them end of the week, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe you have 1 or 2 weeks more time. Investors sense these kind of little things of like, oh, maybe they didn't get term sheets. And then that doesn't define maybe the conviction of investor, but it defines the momentum of a round. And again, momentum helps you increase likelihood of conversion. Don't be blank on numbers. So I think it's much better to have all your numbers top of your head, top of mind, and like sales revenue, costs, margins, growth, CAC, key KPIs, and don't necessarily only refer to your CFO or another person in the organization for it. But because if you're pitching alone in those 30, 45 minutes, you should have all the information that is very relevant. And the key KPIs and metrics are part of that. So what's an expected timeline to keep in mind? I always say 10 to 12 weeks from first conversation till money in the bank on a normal case. But this can vary. It can be longer and shorter. So what is fast, for example? Fast, I would say, is 2 to 3 weeks from first conversation until term sheet signed. And you always hear about those processes that took 3 days and got preempted so quickly. These processes happen, but they are more rare. And typically, it takes 2 to 3 weeks, also with scheduling and all these kind of things, to get from first conversation to term sheet in a fast case. In a normal case, it's more of like a 3 to 6 weeks process. And in a slow case, it's more of a 6 to 10 weeks process. So have that in mind in terms of runway and going out before you run out of money, how long it will take. The legal process afterwards is typically 4 weeks in Europe. And then it takes another few days or 1 to 2 weeks to have the money in the bank. So 10 to 12, or depending on how fast you think your case is, will be a good speed. So what are my key takeaways? Prepare well and invest the time. So this means the months before the process, the weeks before the process. Usually it's worth it. Number 2, don't get blended by initial love. Only the first term sheet counts. So it's not the words, it's only the actions. And always keep that in mind when you receive lots of investor love before they actually give you a term sheet. And the third one is process momentum is key. Drive the process forward from your side and keep the momentum up. Follow up, answer fast. With that, I hope it's a few tactics that help you increase your likelihood of conversion to the first term sheet and hopefully more. And I want to open the round for questions and see if I can answer any here. Over there.
Yeah, there is a joke that investors usually have 2 ways to answer. No, 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 or please, please, please. And you talk a lot about the momentum and losing that momentum while fundraising. Do you think this fear of missing out in investors is actually detrimental and harmful behavior when startups are fundraising?
I actually